everyone, it is Jazz here, and today I'm doing a to be read video for a challenge. The challenge is the 20 books of summer challenge. This is a challenge put forth by Kathy from a blog, actually. The blog is 746 Books, and I will link you to the blog and the blog post below so that you can learn all the information about 20 books of summer. But the basic idea of the challenge is to read 20 books over the summer. This challenge is running from June 1st to September 1st, I believe. You can also take the option of reading 10 or 15 books if you know that you don't have a heck ton of time over the summer. But I'm hoping to have a little more time over the summer myself, and I want to embrace escapism into books, so I'm going to shoot for the 20 books. Before I jump into my list of 20 books, I will say that this is a very tentative list. Mood reading is going to come into play, so if I find something not super exciting, I may move on and make another choice. But these are the books that I think that I would like to enjoy over the summer. As some of you may know, if you follow my channel, I am doing what is called the Jane Eyre Project, where I read Jane Eyre related books, or at least one Jane Eyre related book every month. So I went ahead and picked the 3 of those books that I would like to get to for this period of time. For the month of June will be Mr. Rochester by Sarah Shoemaker. This is a story that is from Mr. Rochester's point of view, and I think it's going to take place from his childhood on into like the events of Jane Eyre. So that sounds really super fun, and I'm very excited to read this one. Then I have the first book in the Thursday Next series, The Eyre Affair. This is set in an alternate history of 1985 in Britain and centers around a character named Thursday Next who works for this, I don't know, what do you call it, military-esque thing that kind of is in charge of keeping, you know, literary stuff solid, and Jane Eyre has apparently been stolen from the novel, and thus she has to solve the mystery and get that whole situation fixed. May check this one out in audiobook depending on timing and how I feel about the book as I'm reading it, but it does sound like a wacky fun time. The book for August, I believe, will be Reread, which is by Patricia Park, and this is a modern retelling of Jane Eyre, but it centers around a Korean main character as she adapts to life in New York City, or that's what it sounds like. The rest of the list is just stuff that I think I'm going to be interested in reading. The audiobook of Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. Really enjoyed Gone Girl, so I'm hoping to enjoy this, even though I know it's gonna be like kind of deep and possibly depressing. So we'll see how my feelings feel. I also really want to dive into a Stephen King book soon, and for this I have chosen Cell. Went with Cell because I've owned it forever. It's a reasonable length for a Stephen King novel, so I think it can be done. And also it's the only one that I think I currently own that is a standalone. Now, I don't hear much about this book, so I don't think people hate this book, but I also don't think they love it. I think it's going to fall somewhere in the middle, so I'm intrigued to see what I think. We have 2 books from a series, User Friendly and Heir Apparent. This series by Vivian Van Velde, I believe, is going to be about a bunch of young people. They enter a virtual reality game that is sort of medieval themed, and insanity ensues. That's what I'm getting the vibe off of them, and I do think that that is possibly my jam. So I hope that I like these. So I thought I would try to complete a series over the duration of this time, and I decided that I would go for reading the entirety of the Wrinkle in Time series. Now, I have read the first 4 books in the series before, which are A Wrinkle in Time, A Wind in the Door, A Swiftly Tilting Planet, Many Waters, but I have never read An Acceptable Time, except I did start it once, I think when I was 12, and then I, for whatever reason, did not finish it. So I would like to get all the way through the series to An Acceptable Time. I've always really loved the Wrinkle in Time series, and I know that I can blow through at least the 4 books really easily. and I'm hoping it will be the same for Acceptable Time. Plus, I got this really cool bind up of it, and I would like to actually like read through the bind up because I bought it forever ago and never ended up actually getting to Acceptable Time. So we're gonna do it. Now, I thought this would be a good time to actually jump back into the Sherlock Holmes series because I've been trying to finish a series for like, I don't even know how long, probably like 10 years, and it still hasn't happened. It's not because I don't enjoy them, because I do enjoy them. It's because I get stuck on one particular book, and that is Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. So after trying to reread Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes for like a year now, I've decided that I need a new approach. And so I looked up a suggested way of reading the Sherlock Holmes books, which is different than the actual publishing order, and it's kind of just the idea of what this person says is a good way to read them, and I'm going to try that because I do want to complete this series for sure because I enjoy it so much, except for some reason, Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes I get stuck on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to skip to the last book, actually, of the Sherlock Holmes series, which is the casebook of Sherlock Holmes. I believe this is just rando cases centering around that character, which sounds like a good short story time and something that I can pick up every once in a while. But also, I believe that I may audiobook them sometimes, and the audiobooks are usually between 4 and 5 hours long on a Sherlock Holmes thing, which is completely doable really quick. So I'm going to pick up Casebook of Sherlock Holmes, and then I'm going to jump into, I think, Valley of Fear is what they suggested on the website that I looked at. And I should enjoy that because I do tend to like the Sherlock Holmes novels more than I like the short story collections, and that's just because I like novels more than short story collections. I did want to get a little nonfiction on my list, and I decided to go with a book that I recently acquired in a 2-for-1 sale on Audible, and that was Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. I've never read a C.S. Lewis book other than the Chronicles of Narnia series, which I do really adore, and this one I've heard so much about, and my little Christian self wants to dive into Mere Christianity this summer. I think it's going to be super good, and I think I'm going to enjoy it more as an audiobook than reading it in physical copy. So I'm very excited to give it a go. 5 more books, and I had a super strategy with this one, which was to have a group of books that's super short and is just all plays and poetry. So the first play that I have here is The Winter's Tale by William Shakespeare. I finally decided that the Shakespeare play that I was going to read this year was The Winter's Tale after much debate. It just sounds like a sad, but hopefully it won't end too sad sort of thing, and I think I'm going to enjoy it a lot. Another play that I hope to get to is Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller. I feel like a little bit of shame as somebody that's super involved in theater that I don't really know what Death of a Salesman is about, other than the fact that it's about a family. I know it's about a middle-class family. That is all I know about this. So I feel like, I should know. I should dive into this and find out all the jam on Death of a Salesman. Last 3 books, as I said, are all collections of poems. The first one is The Raven and Other Poems by Edgar Allan Poe. It's a really short, slim collection of Edgar Allan Poe's poetry, including The Raven. I believe I have read The Raven on its own and a couple of other Edgar Allan Poe poems themselves on their own, but I haven't read a collection of them, so I will get to experience that. The next 2 are rereads of poetry collections, and I want to give them another read because I do remember liking them, but I don't remember what specifically I liked about them. The first one is The Panther and the Lash by Langston Hughes. I remember really liking Langston Hughes' style. I think it's like simplistic but complex at the same time from what I remember. Lastly, I'm going to give Ariel by Sylvia Plath a reread. I remember virtually nothing out of this book, and it's probably her most famous poetry collection. I actually kind of felt embarrassed when a person at the counter at a bookstore asked me about it, and I was like, yeah, I've read Ariel. And then they were like, oh, what did you think of it? I was like, I read Ariel when I was like 13 or 14 years old, so I don't really remember. She was like, you need to dive into that again. I was like, yeah, I probably do. I haven't read Sylvia Plath poetry in a really long time, but I do remember quite enjoying it, and that she used a lot of interesting imagery. That was my tentative to be read for the 20 Books of Summer challenge. I'm very excited for this. I hope that I can at least get through 15 of these, because that would bring me massive joy. Below, I have linked my Instagram and all my social media below, so if you want to stay up to date on how I'm doing on the challenge over the summer, that is a good way to check it out. I usually tell everybody how everything's going with my reading there anyway. Let me know below if you are also doing 20 books of summer, or 10 books, or 15 books, or if you think that it would be fun to join this challenge. I'd love to hear that from you. And thank you for watching, my fabulous peeps. I will see you all soon. Bye!